Hey there, no-coders, low-coders, and yes, even you coders are welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you 3 unique ways to create an admin console in your Appgyver app. So I'm going to do a quick teaser and show you on the right-hand side. I am screen mirroring from my phone with the Appgyver preview app. So a really quick example is we're going to sign in using the account a@a.com. And this is going to be your regular user account. So this admin console is going to give you the ability to access different or restricted pages from regular users. So just by logging in with this email, we see the regular app with the regular forum, and that's all that there is to it. Now, the next option is if we were to sign in with what I have as the admin account, then we would use a different email, and the password, again, just generic password for testing. But now when I sign in, I get a completely different login page that's not part of the navigation for the original app. So you can see I put a delete button here. It doesn't actually do anything. Now in this video, I'm not going to show you how to add admin functions because those functions are going to vary based on your specific needs. But again, you can get creative. The idea is once you have access to this page, you can give yourself access to functions you may not want other users to have. That way you don't need to jump on your computer every time you need to do something with your app. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight in. All right, everybody. So we have walked through the basics of creating this admin console, or basically just demoing this admin console. So now you'll notice there is a flaw to this where I'm kind of stuck on this page, and I'll walk through the benefits and downsides and how to kind of optimize the 3 methods that we'll be covering today. So one thing I will do to go ahead and kick myself out is I'm going to basically just make a small change to reset the preview app on the right-hand side. Now we'll cover these 3 methods. So first things first, don't forget to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, check out my channel for new tutorials, drop any questions and comments below as always. All right, so let's just jump into this application itself. Very, very basic idea is we're finding a way to create different pages in this app or another app and restrict access to them. So there are a couple of choices. You can set these within the app. I'll show you how to do that. We're going to be using the if logic. So the first thing that we need to do is figure out how exactly you want this to be set up. Do you want your users to log in, and when you log in, you get a different page? Do you want a certain page in your app to give you access to a different page? Once you've kind of figured that out, you can determine which of these 3 methods will work best for you. Now, another thing is, as you're collecting emails and passwords from users and any other user data, make sure you're following any and all applicable rules, laws, guidelines, etc. And also make sure that you're using the admin consoles within any relevant laws, rules, guidelines, etc. All right, so the first method, which we did here, is the least secure, but probably the most attractive. The reason I say it's the least secure is we're storing the admin email in this account. So if someone finds a way to pass this variable through, then they can effectively gain unauthorized access to the admin page. Also, if they take the app and put it elsewhere, so for example, if they take this mobile application and they were to dissect it on a computer, work through, let's just say, Android Studio, they could figure out what the underlying code is. So this method's not secure. And another thing, you need to make sure when you're looking at the security for your app that you're following not only rules, guidelines, and laws, but that you're not setting up your users to potentially get hacked. So you need to make sure that, again, you're giving the right access and restricting the access that you need to and following all relevant protocols. So for this method, we're going to go to the login page really quickly. So we're going to click up here in the top left. You'll notice this app looks familiar. I have a link in the description to the How to Create a Social or Sharing App playlist. This is actually the Coffee Canine app that I built within that playlist. I used the duplicate feature in Appgyver, copied it over, and deleted a couple pages to make it easier to work with. And then I changed this icon up here, so I just grabbed this icon from Unsplash. Shout out to the person who posted it. I'm not affiliated with them or Unsplash, but it's a great place depending on the licenses you need. Each of the pictures will tell you what their licenses are, and you can go check those out and use them in accordance with those rules. Now, what we're doing here is we're finding a way to basically save the email or password as an app variable and compare that using if logic. So this is option 1. When a user clicks sign in, all of this is in the how to create a social or sharing app playlist. So you can walk through getting that set up in that tutorial and then come back here. But basically what I have done is I haven't changed this from that playlist or from that tutorial. So first things first, you need to set up your login page, make sure that everything's functioning, and then you need to have your admin panel. So the home screen that users are normally directed to, I have right here. So any normal user, so you need to set up your normal app flow. What's the home page? How do users navigate around? So I have my login page, then it takes users here, and then they use the app as they would expect. Now, I have an admin page, which looks like this, and I want users to only be able to see this essentially when they have the email address that's set to be the admin email. So what we'll be doing is from the login page, again, you need to make sure that you have yours set up and it's functioning. So we have our create a new account and sign in. Now, when I go to sign in, you'll see we have quite a bit of logic set up here. Now, all of this we've already built out from that past tutorial. The only thing that I've added, which I will do here for you or with you, is we look for the very last step of this flow, which is the dismiss initial view. When you look over here, you see this loads the rest of the app. So basically, this is saying everything else has been done. Let's get into the app. So what we're going to do is we're going to set an app variable and connect the node. You basically want to connect the node so that this is also being done alongside the dismiss initial view. So here you can click save. Now, assuming you don't already have that variable, you would need to create it. So what we'll do here is I am using this variable here called admin password. So what we can do is you would basically just click add app variable and name it whatever you want. Now I'll remove this one because I don't need it, but I'm using the app variable admin password, and I'm using an app variable so that it can be used elsewhere in the app. Then when I deselect this and I click on this login page or the sign in button, when the sign in button is clicked, what it's doing is saving this email, and it is saving it as an app variable. So what we're doing is if you click right here, there is a shortcut to grab this value. So if you click right here, once you've already set your credentials email, and you go to formula and you click right here, it automatically fills in the formula for you. So you can just highlight that and copy it. And then when we go to sign in, the app variable where it says set app variable, we're going to make sure that we are setting the app variable that we just created. So you'll set that here. You'll see mine is already admin password. And then we're going to go to assigned value, formula, and then in the formula tab or text box, we will paste in that email. So the quick walkthrough is we're saying when the user has done everything and we're about to complete the login process, set the variable admin password to whatever they entered in their email box here. And then we're just going to click save. So we've officially completed the login screen. Now we're going to go to the home page. So we're going to do this one together just to make it a little bit easier. So we're going to start from scratch. So now that we're on the home page, what we're basically doing is we're setting it up to say when the page loads, we need to check and see if this is a regular user or the admin user. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on page layout here. And what this does is it allows us to check the logic by clicking down here. And you'll see we have page mounted and page focused. What we want is page focused. So we're going to scroll through on the left-hand side, and we're going to drag over an if condition. This if condition is really, really powerful. And then in the top of the if condition, we're going to drag over the open page function. This will help you kind of visualize what we're doing. So what we're saying is when the page is focused, basically when the page is done loading, we have this if condition. So if it's a regular user, we're going to set it up to do nothing. And if it's us, we're going to set it up to open a different page. So I'll show you how this is going to work to help it make a little bit more sense. So we'll click on the if condition, and then you can click right here, and we're going to go to formula. So basically, we're changing it from where it just says false to be an actual formula. Now, I will close out of this really quickly just to show you how to better understand the if condition or really any other logic properties. If you select them up here, you can look at outputs and it'll explain how this works. So if it's truth or true, the first output is triggered. If not, the second output is triggered. So we need to set this logic up to where whatever is happening in this condition, if that is true, it's going to do this. And if it's not, it'll do the second one. We're not going to put anything there, but I don't know if that causes any kind of looping issue or resource demand issues. I haven't seen anything, so I'm going to just leave it blank. But what we'll do here is basically we're going to go back to our if condition, and we're going to go click right here to what it's currently bound to. We'll go to formula, and here's where you have quite a few different options. So this is where you can get creative. You can try to find more secure ways to do what I'm about to do. But basically what I'm doing is we're going to use a function called isEqual. So if you clear out everything in the text box and type in is in all caps, so is, you'll see a couple of options pop up. You can double click on is_even, and you'll see there is that function. So what we want is isEqual. So when we double click this, you'll see it puts in is_equal, and in parentheses you have two values. Now you can scroll down to learn more about how this is set up, but basically if value 1 is equal to value 2, it's true, which is what we need. So we're going to set this to say app variable. So when you start typing here, you're going to set the first one to appvars.admin password. An easier way to remember this, if you have no idea what this means, when you go to app variables, you'll notice admin password, all of these are the different app variables you've created. So this is just another way to call those variables in other areas of the application. And then the value 2 is the actual value. So in this case, this is what we want the admin account to be. So in this case, we're going to put in quotes aa@a.com. And the idea here is this is saying, and you can type all of this out yourself. You don't have to use the pre-filled options. And you can even make this more robust if you need to. But what we're saying is equal. So if app variable.admin password, so the email address entered here on the home page, if that is equal to this, then it's going to trigger this first input or the first output. So basically, you have this truth statement, and then if it's not true, this would be triggered, which is nothing. So that's exactly what we want. So let's walk through this in real time. So we're going to use the account a@a.com just to show you that it is working, and we're just going to type in testing, which is the password, and we're at the home page. Now, when we log out and log back in, if we were to type in aa@a.com and then type in testing and we click sign in, we're now at the admin console. So at this point, you can see that it's working. Now, again, a couple of reasons this is not as secure. When you save this, this value is passed through and it's saved to the app. So two issues. First, if this user account is compromised, the only way you're going to be able to access the admin account is to release a new version of the app. So because this is stored within the app, aa@a.com, if at any point you forgot the password, got locked out, had any issues, whatever the case is, then this is hard-coded into the application. So let's just say it takes 2 days for Google and Apple to review the app, or for you to post it as a web app, or whatever the case is. If there's an issue and you need to get to the admin console and you need to change what that admin email is, then you would effectively need to wait after you've created this change. So you would have to log in, go in here, change this to be something else, save it, rebuild the app, submit it to both app stores. As you can see, it's a lengthy and complicated process, and users can very likely grab the file for your app and get this email. Now, the good news is they would also have to figure out the password or find a way to kind of hack into your app to get to this page. So to be honest, it's still somewhat secure and worth considering. The tricky part about it is this does lock you into the admin console, so you may want to create another button here to take you to the home page. The irony is, because we've used an app variable, the page automatically, every time home page is loaded, anytime the app variable is your email, which is as long as the app is open, then it's automatically going to reroute you to this page. So you either need a button to delete the app variable for your email, or you would need to set up alternate ways to access different pages. But the idea is every time you're on this page when you're logged in, that app variable is going to trigger you to go to this page, so you may want 2 different accounts, one admin, one not. But that's enough time talking about this particular issue. So we're just going to save a non-change really quickly, and we're going to go into option 2. Now, this one is a little bit more secure in some senses, because we're going to be storing a password in a different area of technically in a different database. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the login page, and we're going to delete the app variable setting that we had in the first one. So this option, we're going to use a password instead. So when you log in, you're going to log in as you would normally. The logic is not going to set up to automatically take you to the admin console. Now we're going to go to the home page. So I have an input field here, but let's go ahead and do this one together from scratch as well. So for option 2, what we're going to be doing is you could put this anywhere in the app. So it's going to be confusing to users if on the home page you have a little button that says admin. So just to let you know, this may potentially not be the best place for it, but if you figure out how to make like a My Account page, for example, if you were to put this button up here in the top right, users could click it, and if their username equals your username, you could have logic to show it. I struggled with that a little bit, but the general idea is what we're going to do is allow people to type in a password, and you can figure out how to make this work for you. So you're now going to need to create a variable for whatever this password is. I'm going to use my admin password variable again to reduce confusion, but all you need to do is go to Add App Variable, type in the variable name, and click Save. So I'll remove the one I just added, and we'll click the slider. So the first thing, we're going to have an input field. You just drag it from over here, and that's all there is to it. Now the value, what we're going to do is we're going to set it as a data variable, app variable, and find the one that you just created, and then it's going to be set here. The next thing is to develop the logic to take us there. So we're going to jump in and grab the if logic again. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and click Save. So you have 2 choices. You can either copy the logic that we copied earlier and say if the admin variable equals whatever you want it to be, take the user to the admin page. So that's one choice, but I would prefer to store the variable elsewhere. So what I've done is I've gone over to Firebase, and again, I covered how to get all of this set up in the How to Create a Social or Sharing App playlist, but what we're going to do is we're going to store this variable elsewhere. That way we can change it, so if your account's been compromised, you have the ability to change it outside of the app without needing to effectively log in and go through the release process. So the password here is 1234. So what we're going to do is go back to our application, and we're going to go to Data, and here we're going to add in an admin email. So we're going to add in, we're just going to call it admin password. So we'll do this from scratch together. So we're going to go to Add Data Resource, REST API Direct Integration, And we can call this admin password, and we'll call it data, just so we know that this is the data variable and not the other one. And we'll just call it password. And then the resource URL. I'm going to put this link in the description. I've broken it up to make it easier for you. But in caps are the only two options that you need to change. So what we're going to do here is copy up to the 1 in V1. And we're going to paste that in right here. And then we're going to go to get. Now here's where we paste in the remainder. So the / all the way just after the 1 up until the very end. So we may have to copy from this side. So we're going to hit Control-C, paste it in over here, and then we see we have two things we need to update. So at this point, what we need to make sure that we're doing is we are setting this up and calling the project and collection name what we need it to be. So you'll see in Firebase, I already have something called password. But just to make sure we're doing it together, I'll go in and call this password 2. And then for simplicity, I'll call this password 2. And field, we'll just call this password. And the value will be 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just put in a 5. And we'll save it. So now you see we have it right here. Now we're going to go through this together. So first thing, you need to get your project name. So when you have selected the collection in Firebase up here, you'll see part of the URL says project. And right after that, it says the project name. So we can copy what's in between the two /. And we'll replace the text project name with the project name. Then we just need to grab the collection, which in this case, you'll see it right here. So I believe the collection would be the first one, but I could be mistaken. It could be the second one. That's why I named them the same thing. Probably not the best naming convention, but what we're going to do is type in password 2. In response key path, you'll put documents. And when you go to test, you click run test. And you'll see, although we get all this confusing stuff, what we're looking for is this string value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it's important that you set the schema from response and click save. If you have any errors, go back through, double check all of your links, make sure that everything is set up. This should work when you have the URL correctly. Also make sure that your security in Firebase is set up accordingly. Firstly, if it's open, other people can access this password and this information. Secondly, if it's closed off completely, your app's not going to be able to call it and get the password. So make sure you're organizing your security rules accordingly to whatever you need to. So data variable's been added, and as we know, you can't add a data variable to a page until you've added it in the variables tab or slider. So we'll go there, we'll click data variables, and we're going to go to add data variable. So we'll see we have admin password data, which is the one we just created. When you click this, it adds the number 1 to the end, not a problem. And now we have the data variable accessible. So at this point, we'll click on this little, basically this input field, and it's saving the value to the app variable admin password. So we've done all we need to for this one. Next up is to set up the page layout. We need to delete the past logic to make sure we don't have anything conflicting and redirecting users. So that was just undoing the first method we tried. So the last thing, we're going to go to button 2. And this button 2, we'll call it admin just to make it clear what it's doing. And we've already added in this if condition together earlier. So what we'll do is same thing as we did the first time around. We'll go to the condition. And we'll go to formula, and we're going to delete everything and type in is in all caps. And we're looking for is equal. So the first value, if you click on data variables, because it's already highlighted, it's going to paste in over top. You're going to scroll through, and you'll see all the data variables. So it'll say data dot, which means it's a data variable, and then something related to that data variable. So what we're looking for is admin password data, but we're looking for the string value. So if you click on any of these, you'll see over to the right examples. When we set the schema from response, what we basically did was we saved the sample variable so we can actually check over ourselves. So you want the one that says string value, so you're pulling the actual value that you entered, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we click this one, you'll see that's exactly what's displayed. So we can double click here and you'll see it auto fills. And then here, what we're going to do is type in quote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quote. And we're going to click save. And then I'm sure you've already guessed the next step, which is basically just to open the admin page. So we will go ahead and click open page. So we dragged it over, and since it's, I believe, in alphabetical order, admin was the first option, so you'll just select your page and click save. So we have finished everything. At this point, it doesn't matter what account we use to log in, but just to show you that it doesn't matter, I'll use what was the admin account before. We'll go to sign in, and you'll see we're here. So let's try typing in 1, 2. We click admin, and you'll see it takes us to the admin console. So the downside to this is what we've set up is 1, 2 is part of 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you were to type in 5, 5, it's still taking you to the admin console, which means we haven't set this up just correctly yet. So what we need to make sure that we're doing is double checking that the is equal statement is set up correctly. So it's setting up to open up the admin page. And then we need to make sure, let's see. Oh, that's what was incorrect. So apologies about that. So what we've done is we've set it up to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And essentially what we need to be doing is comparing the data variable to the value here, which is admin password. You can see this can get a little confusing. So what we need to do is go back here, and we need to compare this to the app variable admin password. Now we're going to click save, and we'll try it one more time. So again, aa@a.com. And then the password, we'll type in testing, sign in. And now, when we type in just a random series of numbers and click admin, nothing's happening. And if you were to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and click admin, you now get the admin console. Now, another thing to note is if we try 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll see it's also not working. So you need to have the exact amount of information, and then you get to this admin console. And the cool thing is with this, because we've set it up on button press, it doesn't automatically log you in to that admin console. But if you wanted to get a little tricky, you could copy this logic and we can delete the button. So you've already seen that it's working. And if you wanted to, you could actually set this up so that the second the number 5 is typed in, it's automatically going to redirect you. So we'll walk through that really quickly, and then we will wrap up this one and go to the final option for the admin console. So when we're logged in, you'll see we type in 1, 2, 3, 4, nothing's happening. And then when 5 is happening, it's not registering that the app variable needs to be set. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that the value being typed in is essentially going to be saved in real time. So right now, all we have is a label, and then the value is the admin password. And then in this little data field, you have the comparison of admin password to the data variable for the password. So again, you could set it up in theory. It doesn't seem to be working in real time like I've seen it in the past. But in theory, you would be able to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it would set you up the way that you would need to. So, not quite sure why it's running through that way, and this is the debugger option if you need it. But you can play around with this logic to get that set up. It's not really behaving for me, but honestly, that wasn't something I wanted to cover for this option. So wrapping up the second option, basically you type in a password and it compares it to whatever's in the database. The reason I've liked this option so much, I want to show you how quickly this could be of benefit to you. So we'll put the button back. We'll put the logic in here. And this is just to show you from a security perspective why this does have a pretty substantial benefit. So when we click here and we click here, you'll see it's opening up the admin page exactly the way it was before. So the benefit to this is, let's just say your users are logging in and somehow your password is compromised. People said, you know what if it's 12345? So they type that in, they get to the admin console, but they've been trying around for a while. 1234 didn't work. So they figure it out, and you found out that they figured out. What you can do is you can go into your database and you can say, I want the password to be password. Or maybe you want it's usually better with numbers, but I haven't been able to get it to work with letters as much. But let's just say the password, we decided to change it to 1234567. Well, now, it would probably take a second or two to register. But then once it's registered, you now have to type in 1234567. So the idea is you'll be able to change this and set it up, or you could even make this an impossible password to guess. Bearing in mind, depending on the security of your app, people could access and find this password, but at least you can change it and control that a little better. And you can also restrict your settings if you need to cut people out to figure things out, to get that password set up or reset. So, been spending a ton of time on this one, so I wanted to walk you through some of those potential use cases. So that's really all that there is for option number 2. The third option, which I think is going to be the most secure, most beneficial, but unfortunately most time-consuming, is going to be option 3, and that is creating a completely separate app. The reason I think this is the most secure is you're the only one that's going to have access to it. So here's what I mean. You've built out your app, you love it, it's exactly what you want. So at this point, you have this application, you built out this custom forum, people can go into this forum, they can chat, they can talk, do all this stuff, and they're loving it. And you have your admin console, which you really, really like, but you don't want others to have access to it. Well, here's another option. You can basically exit your app in Appgyver, and then what you can do is you can duplicate the app by clicking this button here, and we'll just call it admin only, and we'll click create. This process, I think there's a couple factors, but it's usually within a minute or two, and then you have a second copy of your app that's identical to the first. The only people that'll have access to this application are people that you give the APK file or the Apple bundle to. So the possible solution here is you don't even post this to Google Play, the Apple App Store, or any of that. You keep this application and you only install it on your phone, or you could host it as a web app and then restrict the access. So the idea here is it's a lot harder for someone to hack something if you're the only one that has that APK file. So you would be the only one that could download the app. Now, remember that if you're using third-party databases and you have all of the data elsewhere, the security is only as strong as the weakest link. So if your database is open and you're storing passwords in the database, that's a really bad idea. I just did it here as an example. But you would want to work with your Firebase security rules to figure that out. Now, wrapping all of this up and kind of tying it together, again, remember, the security is as strong as the weakest link. So you want to make sure that you're securing all endpoints, all user data, following any and all security protocols, rules, guidelines, etc. And also, you want to make sure that you're managing the third-party databases, restricting access as needed. And don't forget, you have tons of ways to be creative. So if you want to learn about the different documentation and options for your admin console, for example, if you're using your Firebase database, you can go to their documentation page and look through all of the different documentation that they have for modifying, deleting, adding data, etc. Another thing is, you can, if you want to just start deleting things, you can set up buttons to delete certain app variables to make things disappear if you wanted, if that makes sense. So if you wanted to break links, let's just say there's a page that's under construction. and you don't want users to access it. One example is this button. All it could do is set an app variable to a specific variable, and that variable could be what's needed to set up a different page to link to something. So let's just say you have an if statement on another part of the website that says if the app variable or the data variable equals 1, 2, 3, 4, then users can click this button and access it. And when you click this button in the admin console, just like what we've been doing, it says, all right, let's set this data variable here to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then users can access. I don't know if that made sense, but the general idea is just this could be a very powerful tool. So feel free to play with this a little bit. Drop any comments below about ideas that you've thought of. I'd love to hear how you guys could use information like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.